and 5 p.m. in Amberland is time for our Amber history. And our Amber history is backed up by the events, we call them current events, which are happening, and of course, which are being taken note of. They are passing from current events and activities that are just taking place and passing into history. And we must bring this history to the Amazonian people. Today, in our Amber history, I'm going to be bringing you a documentary. And as the days go by, I will be producing the documentary and commenting on the documentary as much as possible. So I want to let Amazonians know that today in our church and politics, the commentary and the episode will be taking us far back to what Amazonians supposed to know, which they have not known, and which is being hidden. Since we have been talking about the history of Amazonia, and many people think that it is a myth, well, we want to have some second voices coming in to buttress what we have been talking about. It is already very much established that Amazonia and La République du Cameroon have international boundaries that have never been frozen, neither have they been touched. And like we have been singing it very clearly here, that La République du Cameroon actually wants the people in their homeland to do a copy and paste kind of education. And that is what they have been taught. And that's what they are trying to do. I've been hearing of a particular La République historian that has been selected together with some gullible Amazonians to rewrite the history and try to create boundaries. But they forget to know that it is written, and what is written cannot be wiped out or cancelled or manipulated. Yeah, it is written, remove not the ancient landmarks which your forefathers had put. So anybody coming in now trying to remove the landmarks and the boundaries of Amazonia and trying to make La République a little bit relevant. Sorry, sir. I'm here to let you know that Amazonia has become the number 55th African nation according to the geography of the world. So Amazonia is the 55th nation, and nobody living or dead can change it, because it's not possible for you living or for you dead to arise and do what? And change this living history. And because nobody can change the living history, I have decided to go back into the archives and search out and bring to the knowledge. And because knowledge is power, yes, as it is said, and the understanding of the Ambazonian people that what we are doing here is not just a suggestion, neither is it a myth or just a story that is told, but to let the Ambazonian people know that the history we are talking is living history. What do you mean we are living history? That means that it is what the ancients had put together. And because many people don't want to go by what was put together, uh, they are struggling to make sure that the people of Amazonia don't understand, should not go by their history, which it is a big failure. But there's no way you can stop a people of this nature to go ahead and carry out findings concerning their history. Many of us who are today alive were not there when the Germans came and invaded our land, and they were not there when the League of Nations cut out the boundaries, and of course, they were not there when the League of Nations, I don't know whether they were failing or whatever was going on, they actually handed over the nations of the world to the lame duck that is called today United Nations. And United Nations took over, and of course, I do not know what criteria they have to have selected 5 permanent nations in the United Nations, 5 permanent members in the United Nations, without a single nation from Africa. Well, their ploy and their game plan that Africa will remain the last is unfortunate, because they did not create the continents of the world. And the creator of the continents of the world, God Almighty, had written it down for every individual and everybody to know. What did he write down? He wrote down that the first shall be the last, and the last shall be the first. And so we have come to age and to that maturity whereby the first is becoming the last. That is why Africa plays, arise, get up, go back to the Creator, look at the moral principles that the people who claim they were first are now deteriorating because of the wickedness that they are exhibiting on fellow human beings whom they think to make scapegoats. But I'm here to tell you of the history that Ambazonia had existed and is existing and will exist. So anybody that has joined hands with La République, especially when we are mentioning La République here, I have told you time and time again that La République is nothing but just the globes. But the real people that um, are involved, and are ahead of all that is happening to Ambazonia is France. Yes, France connived with Britain. They killed Hamajor, who was the United Nations Secretary General at that time, and thwarted and perverted the independence of Ambazonia. Meanwhile, all other Class B African nations that were due for independence, just like La République du Cameroon and other African nations, were given their independence. But because they had a permanent hatred or a practical hatred for Ambazonia, just like Egypt had for Israel, and just like the whole nations of the world, they joined together to persecute Egypt that was under God and was for God did, so have they arisen to do for Ambazonia. And guess what? Like I have been telling you, and I am telling you, Ambazonia has risen to fall no more. And any nation that points a finger with envy and jealousy against Ambazonia, that nation will go down, just like Egypt went down. So any nation that has taken upon itself to fight against Ambazonia, that nation is gone. And we can see a practical example with what is presently going on with La République du Cameroon and, of course, France. France is bearing the brunt now because they rose up and decided that they were going to attack Ambazonia. And of course, Ambazonians have proven their resilience and their stay in God. And that's why we are on Amber TV, and especially on our political page, are encouraging every Ambazonian to arise and make sure that you have a personal connectivity, a personal relationship with God Almighty through His Son Jesus Christ, because that is the only way that we will have and receive our freedom. Because He is the deliverer, He's the only one who can deliver from the claws of the enemy. And it doesn't matter how powerful and how strong you are, once you are in the hands of a praying lion and you have no strength of your own, and of course you do not have God Almighty through Jesus Christ to make a statement and set you free, you are altogether in for real disaster. And so, without any further ado, I will go ahead right now and present to you a brief history. This is just the beginning, and as the days go by, I'll be bringing more of these revelations so that those of you who are doubting Thomases, and you look at us and say, but you, Mr. Historian, where are you coming from? How are we sure that your history is authentic? Now, from this, now I will show you, I will let you know that the history I've been telling you is authentic, because there is no way you can wipe out history that is documented. And because it is documented, I want you to take your eyes and take your ears and listen to this, and listen very, very attentively. And after, I will be making some comments when it's finished. I think the history is about 10 to 12 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So please sit down and listen together with me. After this, don't hesitate to call in, ask your question, and then we go from there. Remember, this is Ambazonian history. Oh, this is Ambazonian history. Unfortunately, I said it was church and politics, but it is actually Ambazonian history, our Amba history. Yeah, it's our Amba history. There you go. All right, it's our Amba history. So let's go and listen to this episode. Just pay attention, please.
During what came to be called the Scramble by the Allied forces in the First World War in 1916.
What's going on?
In 1916, the French territory was known as French Cameroon, and the British territory was administered as British Cameroons. An Anglo-French agreement was signed in Paris.
Sorry, please. It's jumping. Let me get it back right from the beginning so that you can listen from where you're supposed to listen. All right, let's go.
Of present-day Cameroon as its protectorate. Following defeat of Germany by the Allied forces in the First World War in 1916, Cameroon was split between France and Britain, with the majority of the former German territory going to France, by an arrangement that came into effect on April 18, 1916. The French territory was known as French Cameroon, and the British territory was administered as British Cameroons. An Anglo-French agreement was signed in Paris on July 10, 1919, by Viscount Milner and M. Simon, providing for the delineation of the border between the French and English parts. In 1922, the League of Nations formally placed the respective parts of Cameroon under French and English mandates. For ease of administration, on June 26, 1923, while there was technically one British mandate, Britain split the administration of British Cameroons into two, with British Northern Cameroons administered as part of the British Protectorate of Northern Nigeria. Meanwhile, British Southern Cameroons, which were then simply called Cameroons, were formally administered as province of the British Protectorate of Southern Nigeria. Following the Second World War, in 1946, the United Nations was created as the successor to the League of Nations. It designated the respective French and British mandates as trust territories under the administration of France and Britain, respectively. France and Britain signed trusteeship agreements with the UN Trusteeship Council for their respective trust territories. Article 76b of the UN Charter decree that the UN Trustee Council would oblige trust territory administering authorities to foster the development of the peoples in their respective trust territories towards the realization of two very clear objectives: self-government or independence. Furthermore, Article 76b specified that the attainment of this goal would be in consideration of the freely expressed wills of the people of the trust territories. On the 13th of December 1946, having agreed to the terms of the UN Trustee Council and the newly created Charter of the UN, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland undertook to administer the trust territory and people of Southern Cameroons. When the Richards Constitution for Nigeria was promulgated in 1946, Nigeria was divided into 3 regions, and the province of British Southern Cameroons became part of the Eastern region. In 1949, the Bamenda division of British Southern Cameroons province was elevated to full province and became known as Bamenda Province, with its capital in Bamenda. The coastal region of British Southern Cameroons province became known as Cameroons Province, with its capital in Buea. Both provinces were still administered from the eastern region of Nigeria. The change from mandate to trust territory and the implicit guarantee of the eventual attainment of self-government or independence opened the doors wide for the creation of local political parties in the Cameroons. The late 1940s saw the emergence of the Cameroon National Federation, CNF, led by Dr. Emmanuel Endeley, a physician who had recently returned to Buea from the Nigerian School of Medicine in Lagos. Prior to creating the party, he had worked as the secretary for the Workers' Union of the largest agricultural plantation in Cameroon's province, the Cameroon Development Corporation, CDC. Endeley's CNF party was composed not only of southern Cameroonians but also of people from French Cameroon who had immigrated to work in the plantations. Following the Ibadan General Conference of 1950, a split emerged within the CNF party. Despite advocating reunification with French Cameroon, it had become apparent that Endeley was more in favour of autonomy within the Protectorate of Nigeria. Endeley was opposed to a number of incentives that would have accelerated the unofficial integration of Cameroon's and Bamenda provinces with French Cameroon, including the enfranchisement and the granting of citizenship and scholarships to residents from French Cameroons. This led to a member of the CNF party, Robert Dibungay, a native of Douala in French Cameroon, who at the time had recently emigrated to Buea and who was also the leader of the French Cameroon Welfare Union, FCWU, to create a new political party. Joining him in his endeavour were Jongu Fontia and Namasu Neres Bile, the then secretary of the CNF. They called their new party Cameroon United National Congress, or KUNC, with Dibongay as president and Bile as secretary general. The KUNC's aim was to work towards reunification of the Cameroons and had the support of Ernest Wande and others of the Union of the Populations of Cameroons, UPC, of French Cameroon. Following the December 1951 elections, 13 southern Cameroonian representatives were elected to the Eastern Nigerian House of Assembly in Enugu and included Lanjo, Muna, Fontia, Zay, Gala, Krangson, D, George, Forju, Bile, Charlie, and Motombi, Wuleta, and Endeley. Entering the assembly at Enugu in January 1952, the representatives declared for Namdi Azikiwe's National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, NCNC. 6 of the representatives went on to represent Cameroon's province in Lagos, and Muna and Endeley were later named Ministers of Works and Labour, respectively. By 1953, the Southern Cameroon's representatives were becoming unhappy with the domineering attitude of local politicians in the Eastern House of Assembly and the lack of unity among the ethnic groups in the Eastern region. Also, a constitutional crisis had erupted in the Eastern House of Assembly over power sharing between the three regions and the central government.
Yes, Ambazonians, I want you to pay full attention and listen to our history being recounted. And as they recount our history, I want you to note that our history is what we should take full note of. Can you see that from 1949, where the Ambazonians, who were the Southern Cameroons and were joined at that time to the Eastern House of Assembly as one of the 3 divisions of Nigeria, were very active. And in all this, there is a clear difference in the narrative of some people from La Republique who came in as workers in the big company in Douala, in Victoria, in Tico. They call them the immigrated. That means they were not one country. I do not know what document they were using at that time to cross from one country to another. But it is very clear from this history that the Ndonge they mentioned and the other people that they mentioned in the history were not originally from southern Cameroons. They were from East Cameroon. And East Cameroon was and is very, very different from Ambazonia of today. So anybody who is actually still thinking and talking the trash that we have been hearing over the fake and false narrative of La République du Cameroon as one and indivisible country, sorry, sir. Our boundaries from that time, beginning 1914, right up till today, the 24th of July, 2023, the boundaries have never been frozen. And secondly, there is no union of treaty between the Ambazonians, Southern Cameroons, and La République du Cameroon, French Cameroon. So there is no union treaty that is found anywhere in the archives as touching these two different countries with two different entities. Our cultures are very different, and of course, the influence of the not colonial masters, because we never had one. We were just a custodian, they were just our custodians. We were given as a trust territory after the division of the scramble for Africa. We were given and classified as Class B nations to later gain our independence as individuals, like La Republic, and of course, like Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. And up till today, it has not been changed. Ambazonians, I want you to understand that if we look at the Green Tree Agreement that Obasanjo made La Republique du Cameroon to sign with Nigeria, it was clearly stated that Nigeria will go back to its boundary and during independence, and of course Cameroon go back to its boundary as obtained during their independence. And for now, the Ambazonians should know and understand that there is no frozening of our boundaries since after the independence of La République du Cameroon on the 1st of January 1960. Neither do we have the frozening of our boundaries to join La République du Cameroon on the 1st of October 1961. It was an experiment that was still underway, but La République du Cameroon, as well as what had happened in the Enugu House of Assembly, where he started talking about constitutional crisis and marginalization and all those kinds of petty, how do I call it? People who are qualified for a particular situation and particular position are not given because of their ethnicity or their background or where they come from. And that is what has been happening and was happening even at that time. And the Ambazonians decided to get out of that land and to make sure that they start their land, of which Dr. E.M.N. Indele was the first prime minister, and after that, Dr. Jongo Foncha and Gomjoa, when this imperialist, France, played a game and brought Ahijo into the pitch. Unfortunately, well, whatever people are saying, may I say that uh, no matter how much hands join in hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished. If you allow yourself to stand in the position of the devil to use you, just know that at the end of the day, you shall receive your payment. I just heard the Secretary of State for Communications for Ambazonia making a very serious announcement and asking a series of questions. Ahijo, who played the first game of trying to bring the Ambazonians into bondage and did horrible things to please France. When his term was over, where did France keep him? His body is not buried in Marwa as we are talking now. The wife is not buried in Marwa. The daughter that recently died, I don't know where she was buried. And the Secretary of State for Communication was saying it very emphatical that since the foundation of the SDF, the chairman has been the chairman in all the organs and has played into the game ring of France. And as he played into the game ring of France, he actually advocated that all the Amazonian leaders in the diaspora should be brought home and judged and jailed. I mean, this is terrible. And he is and he was an Amazonian as per se. But then we don't need to get into the nucleus of the whole matter. But what I'm saying here is that since we have been talking this history and you don't want to listen to it, listen to what is not formulated now. It has been in the archives. And guess what? Since Ambazonians has decided to go the way of God, God knows how to bring disgrace when your cup is full. And so, La Republique, your cup is full, and definitely you will get the disgrace that you're actually supposed to get. But then, before you get the disgrace, we are digging into history. Please just stay back and fasten your seatbelt, and let's listen to this report to the end. It's remaining just a few more minutes, and then we will end this report that is being reported here. So let's get back to the report that we're watching, and then we'll go from there. All right, go ahead, historian, and tell us what's going
Nigerian
on.
House of Assembly in Enugu, and included Lanjo, Muna, Fontia, Zay, Gala, Krangson, D, George, Forju, Bile, Charlie, and Motombi, Wuleta, and Endele. Entering the assembly at Enugu in January 1952, the representatives declared for Namdi Azikiwe's National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, NCNC. 6 of the representatives went on to represent Cameroon's province in Lagos, and Muna and Endele were later named Ministers of Works and Labour, respectively. By 1953, the Southern Cameroon's representatives were becoming unhappy with the domineering attitude of local politicians in the Eastern House of Assembly and the lack of unity among the ethnic groups in the Eastern region. Also, a constitutional crisis had erupted in the Eastern House of Assembly over power sharing between the three regions and the central government, resulting in a leadership vacuum in the NCNC and the dismissal of several ministers, including Muna. In March, a split emerged within the Southern Cameroon's delegation. Endele joined Fontia, Muna, George, Forju, Lanjo, Kangson, Zay and Gala to advocate breaking away from the NCNC. The rest of the delegation, headed by Bile, stuck to the NCNC, advocating tighter integration with Nigeria. Endele's breakaway faction declared a benevolent neutrality and a decision to withdraw from the assembly at Enugu in favour of autonomy for Southern Cameroons. On April 14, 1953, Azikiwe, who would later become the first president of Nigeria, recognised the position of Cameroons as a trust territory and supported their demand for separate regional status. When Muna failed to be reinstated on the 5th of May, Endele and his Cameroons bloc, as they were called, abandoned their seats in the assembly and sat in the hallways. The following day, the Lieutenant Governor was forced to dissolve the Eastern Region House of Assembly. Once at home, the Southern Cameroon's delegation invited all native authorities, ethnic organisations, traditional rulers and chiefs to a conference in Manfi from May 22nd to the 24th. At the Manfi conference, which was massively attended, it was unanimously decided that the CNF and KUNC parties should merge to form one political party. Furthermore, an agreement was made to petition the Secretary of the Colonies, Oliver Littleton, to demand a separate and autonomous legislature for the Cameroons at two separate conferences at the colonial offices in London in June and August 1953. The Southern Cameroons delegation petitioned and pressed hard for a separate region of its own. The UK government agreed, and Southern Cameroons became an autonomous region within the Federation of Nigeria, with its capital still at Buea. Northern Cameroons rejected unification with Southern Cameroons and reunification with French Cameroon, and accepted to forfeit the £150,000 of aid it was receiving from Southern Cameroons to support its administration. Following the June 1953 London Conference, the CNF and KUNC parties merged to form the Cameroon National Congress, KNC, with Ndele as president and Dibenge as patron, with the stated goal of creating an autonomous region for Southern Cameroons with Nigeria. No sooner had the KNC been formed than the rest of the ousted members of the KNC banded together to create an opposition party, the Cameroon People's Party, KPP. It was headed by Paul Calais, Bile, Charlie, Samba D, and Motombi Wuleta. Allied to the NCNC, the KPP continued to seek integration of Southern Cameroons with Nigeria. Elections were held in December 1953, and the KNC whipped the KPP, winning 12 of the 13 seats in the Assembly, and sending the message the Southern Cameroons had indeed voted for regional autonomy. On the 1st of October 1954, with the creation of the Federation of Nigeria, the Cameroons and Bamenda provinces ceased to exist and be part of the eastern region of Nigeria, and were grouped for administrative purposes as the Southern Cameroons. Prior to this date, Southern Cameroons had no independent public debt, and the administrating authority did not give it direct financial assistance by way of loans, grants, or any other payment. The Southern Cameroons Regional Assembly held its inaugural meeting on October 26, 1954, on temporary accommodation in the government school in Buea. This day would subsequently be considered Southern Cameroon's National Day. It was administered by UK Commissioner Edward John Gibbons, who reported to the Governor of Nigeria in Lagos. He was assisted by an expatriate, ex officio, and unofficial officers in the persons of Ndele, Kangson, Muna, and George. In the December elections for the Federal House of Assembly in Lagos, 6 persons were elected to represent Southern Cameroons.
Well, Ambazonians, I'm sure that you have gotten and heard a glimpse of what has been going on and what is going on. Tomorrow is another day. I will be bringing you the second episode. I want you to follow this thing very, very cautiously to understand that what we are talking about, the state of Ambazonia, is not a joke, and it's not something that we are just formulating. And so our Ambazonian history is extremely very, very clear. And because it is clear, I will make us to understand. Sorry, it's Amba history. Our Amba history is clear, and because our Amba history is very clear, sometimes this will just take me to church and politics. But so what you have heard is a clear, documented, and truthful history of Ambazonia. All the speculations and lies that La Republique is peddling there, they cannot hold. You know why they cannot hold? Because it is the truth that makes people free. Now, if you want to entangle people and bring in a narrative that is not founded, guess what? You will be the person to suffer the consequences. Fellow Ambazonians, and people that are listening to the history of Ambazonia, the former British Southern Cameroons, I want you to note God, who created the heavens and the earth and placed each and every one of us in his own sphere on the planet earth, is a God of justice and wants the people in their different spheres to maintain their geographical allocations of which he, God, gave to them. Now, if you are encroaching into another person's geographical area and you are not doing it because the place was sold to you by the people in one way or the other, or because you acquire it by right of birth or by God giving it to you, and you want to come with lies, let it stay for 440 years. One day, the people of the land will get up and will go back to their land. Remember, I've been telling you that the history of the children of Israel in Egypt for 430 years, the Egyptians and the other Arabs that were their neighbors thought that these people were completely annihilated and removed from the globe and removed from the face of the earth. But the few of them that remain after 430 years, of which their land actually became a desert because there was nobody to cultivate. After 430 years, they went back there and started cultivating, and today that piece of land around Jerusalem is a vegetation. I mean, green vegetation and almost a forest. And some of the best fruits and foodstuff are coming from that area. So also, I want to let the people who are playing hanky-panky with Ambazonia, especially France. If you don't know what is happening to you, France, let me tell you, it's because you have planted a tyrant to fight against the original ordained people of God, who for the past 7 years of your inversion physically now, because you had tried to invade them more than 60 years ago mentally, and you tried to brainwash them, it didn't work. Like I said, the Amazonian people are people that their IQ is very, very high, and they are also very, very hardworking and initiative. They initiate whatever they are doing. But like I said, an average francophone from the East Cameroon being manipulated and brainwashed by the French wants to do everything for them to be just like zombies. You know, zombies are people or things that, or animals that just copyright. They're just like robots, that, carry out what we call copyright. But Amazonians are not and will never. La Republic has tried to brainwash them to actually behave and look like them, but they have proven increasingly serious that they are not created to be slaves of some other group of human beings. And that's why there is a conspicuous silence about what is going on with them right now as the genocide is going on in that land. All the nations of the world are like they are in a conspiracy of silence to look into what is happening. But Amazonians, I am here as a historian to let you know that you are not the first in the world to be treated in this way. And those who were treated in this way did not sit down to wait for manna to fall from heaven. They stood up and they got it by themselves. And I want to applaud the interim government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia that with all the games that have been played, the fragmentation and the politicking of France, to see that if there is a reliable person that can handle the people and really become an Afrikaner and protect the people, they would like to maintain a zombie and they would like to maintain a tyrant, like they have maintained the how do you call it, the skeleton of Bia in La Republique du Cameroon. And right now, a man who does not even know where he is, he cannot even talk. They are still holding on to him. And France has discovered that there are some stooges that have bought into being slaves for France. I'm here to announce to you, France, and any other nation that gets into La République du Cameroon as an avenue to oppress the people of Ambazonia. I want to let you know that you are digging your grave. You see what has started happening in France? That is just the beginning. If you don't allow Ambazonia to be on their own, to go on their own, I am telling you, France, your doom is already cast. You know, you have met with your Waterloo. And when you meet with your Waterloo, of course, those who have met with their Waterloo, they cannot come back to tell the stories. Yes, they can't come back to tell us the story of what is going on there. But we are here as Ambazonians and as children of God, people of God, who have decided to follow the ways of God, to warn you before you get into your doom. It shouldn't be that you were not told. So you have heard the outline of the story of our history, of the Ambazonian history, and the boundaries that have been in place from time immemorial. Now, for you to get up in the 21st century while the archives are still there, and while you have tried to do everything to hide it from us, and you try to again do it this time around to make sure that you hide the evidences of what we're supposed to know for to hide it from us, I want to tell you that you have made a very big mistake. Oh yes, you have made a very, very big mistake, and the big mistake you have made cannot actually be um, taken very lightly. Why? Because as far as God is concerned, what you are trying to do to hide evidence is just like getting fig leaves in the Garden of Eden and then hiding and covering your nakedness. Meanwhile, God actually has for you uh, something that you can use to cover your nakedness. God has an animal that He has killed and has taken the skin of the animal and is getting ready to have you use that skin of the animal to cover your nakedness. But you decide and you are deciding to go with leaves. No, leaves cannot cover your nakedness because using leaves at the end of the day, definitely you will be discovered. Like I'm saying, France has been discovered. La Republic is paying it now very seriously and paying it very expensively. And of course, France is reaping the consequences. Because if you try to get into a land and do that which you are not permitted, it is not your land. Of course, it is not your land. And you try to get into that land and carry out activities that you are not permitted to carry out, not only carry out activities, but go as far as making a plan to kill everybody in that community so they can own not only their land, but you can also own their property. It doesn't work, especially in a group of a people who have decided that, okay, God is our founder, God is our maker. We rely on Him. Others have tried and they have failed. And others have tried, especially when it concerns God, and they have failed. But others have tried in the ordinary and they have succeeded because the ordinary person trying to fight another ordinary person, how do they end up? They actually end up by the stronger solution drawing from the weaker solution. And that's why La Republique, France thought that the method he has used over the years to depose a dictator whose eyes are getting open to cut away from France and to impose another one, was being successful and was going, he thought that he can do that method in Amazonia. But unfortunately, he has met with a people that are not just ordinary people, but he has met with a people that have their God. And guess what? Because we believe that God is the owner and the founder of Amazonia. Let me hear what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Our telephone line is there on the screen. The line is open. You can call in and then do your contribution to make sure that Ambazonians know, or that you have understood a bit of what we are telling you now concerning Ambazonia. Meanwhile, our brother is in the house.
Father, you know me, you know.
Hold on. We know that you are in the house and that you are going to tell us that Abai Father. I mean, an average Ambazonian now knows that we have a Father that loves us. So please, when I'm inviting you into the house, you just keep to toe the line. Let me give you the permission to come up first. While I'm still talking, if you just bomb in like that, you'll be trying to make us to be like La Republic of Cameroon that has no control. So we are very protocol and we are organized. So thank you very much for your understanding. So as I was saying, if many Ambazonians still have the spirit of La Republic of Cameroon, right? And we are doing everything to make sure that that spirit is casted out, irrespective of who you are. So, my brother, I'm not rebuking you, but I'm just saying that we have entered in an era where we have to actually maintain the status quo. Okay. All right. So, as I was saying, our telephone lines are open. You can see the number on the screen. You can call in to make your contribution, to ask a question, and of course, inform your friends that the real history is on again. Because I say on again. Now, I've sat down, we've made some research, and we've discovered the archives that France has been hiding somewhere. And as I said, we'll be unveiling them to you as the days go by. This is just episode number 1. And we'll give you until we reach where the Ambazonian are standing now as the 55th nation of Africa. Okay, brother, while we are waiting for anybody who has a phone, something to contribute, want to say that our telephone lines are open again, and our brother is going to come in with this musical pause to tell us how much our Father loves us, the God we have trusted in how much He loves us. And then immediately after that, I will be bringing to you some few announcements before I call it quit for today. Remember, you are on ABC, our Amber History. Brother, all right, take over now. The microphone is yours.
My name, Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. You know my name more than the air. You know me, you know my name. I can see your hand in my life. Lord, I see your love upon me. Every time I look around, now you are the see. Every time I turn around, now you are the view. I dey hear your voice in my heart. Lord, I feel your love over me. Every time I look around, now you are the see. Every time I turn around, now you are the below. Abba Father, you know my name. Papa, you know me. Yeah. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yelele, 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 yelele.
you very much, servant of God in Ambazonia. You see, that's why we are a people with a difference, because we don't depend on the ancestors, as they call them. We depend on Ancient of Days. And this Ancient of Days is Jesus Christ, the Lord of Ambazonia. And because He's the Lord of Ambazonia, we have confidence in whatever we are doing. And we have been telling you, and we are telling you, please make sure that you call upon the name of the Lord. Those who did not call upon the name of the Lord, they were not saved. Even some of the Israelites did not leave Egypt because they did not call upon the name of the Lord. They despised everything and anything that was said concerning their deliverance. But we don't want us to be ignorant. History has taught us that we need to actually be very conscientious. I want to announce to the Ambazonian people that today at 7 p.m., I will be back on the air in Ambazonia. That's a few hours from now. I'll be back on the air in the program Health and Wealth to bring you a documentary, to give to you a documentary that is very, very powerful, written by some Kakus students. They actually were writing this documentary to a certain producer of a television station in La Republic of Cameroon, and one so-called historian or one former minister or minister in La Republic of Cameroon was blowing lies. I grew up not believing that big men can tell lies, but you see a man like this consciously telling lies, an adult consciously telling lies of what can be verified and known that it's not true that he is talking. But he'll be talking it, and then you have veins coming out of his neck as he's talking, and then the sweating in lies telling. Well, as a true historian of Ambazonia, we know what's going on. John chapter 8, verse 44. He is of the devil, his master, and the work of the master will he do. What is the work of the master, of the devil? Number one is lies telling. And when he tells those lies, only for one purpose: to kill, as they are killing Ambazonians; to steal, as they are looting Ambazonians; to destroy, as they are burning Ambazonian houses and other things in Ambazonia. That is the handiwork of the devil. And some organs in La Republique du Cameroon are carrying these devilish works to betray Ambazonia. But I'm here to let you know that you have failed. Well, at this juncture, we want to say thank you very much for coming in with us and for being with us. Don't forget, we have an appointment at 7 p.m. Amber time for a reboot of our history, which will be released on the program Wealth and Health. I will anchor that program today again, just to read to you what you're supposed to know. For now, God bless the people of Ambazonia, and be resilient, and make sure that you are not deceived to jump into anything that you are not involved. Listen to your interim government, go back to your counties, and of course, remember the draft for the counties is on and is marching on. We've done Bui, we've done Okutunja. The next county that is going to be is coming up on Saturday. I will be bringing you further announcements on that particular issue. God bless the people of Ambazonia, and thank you for listening. Brother, take over right now.
And you know my name. I give you glory. Abba Father, you know me. You know my name. Abba Father, you know me. You know my name. Abba Father, you know me. You know my name. You know my name, oh daddy. Hey, what they